If you're tired of the standard business and marketing fundamentals, frameworks, and funnels, you need a little mischief. Get ready to turn up the volume on the CEO Mischief Maker podcast, where you access conversations with seasoned business owners who have smashed through mindset barriers, innovated the standard boring business and marketing playbooks, and executed future-paced strategies with bleeding-edge tools and tactics to micro-fail their way into massive success and growth. We are Mindset Impact Strategic Catalysts helping innovative entrepreneurs focus. We are CEO Mischief Makers. Ready to make a little mischief? All right, welcome to another day of mischief, my friends. We get to jump right in with someone I met probably about maybe 7-8 months ago. And we've just been having a great time in a mastermind ever since and connecting. And I'm telling you, if you have not joined a mastermind, you need to find one that really reflects your values and what you want to work on, because they are an invaluable source of a huge brain power that can be put toward your business. So without further ado, my dear friend, dear friend, Greg Johnson. Hello there, dear. How are you?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, we get to chat about some really fun things. So before we get started, though, there are people out there who might not know exactly who you are and what you do. So tell them what you do.
I will give the very, very short version. So I'm Greg Johnson. I've been a full-time business owner since 2013. I've done a couple different things in that time. What I'm doing mostly right now is running an e-commerce business with my wife and doing some coaching and consulting for other online business owners. Doing that underneath the name Email Magic, because primarily what I like to do is really help people use that as a tool to really advance what they're trying to do with their business.
Communication, right? I mean, if you don't communicate with your customers, you probably won't have very many.
Not for long.
Right? Yeah. All right. So there's some mystery involved in there, because you're doing different things, some with your wife. Now you're doing coaching and consulting. Let's kind of rewind a bit and kind of talk about, well, first off, we start with mindset. Where did you start in this entrepreneurial journey? And if you could just kind of give us the quick story about that first, and then I'm going to dive into what you had to do with your own stuff in order to get there, right?
Well, I will let you know that I learned everything the hard way. Everything the hard way.
That's the best way. I'm sorry, I got to jump in. That is the best way.
I think it really locks in those lessons, but it takes time, obviously, and there's ups and downs during that time. So if anybody can learn anything from this conversation we have and save themselves a little time, I'd encourage that instead of doing it my way. So I started a business back in 2013 with a couple of other partners, and it was a B2B, very high-end, high-ticket sales for lab science equipment. Very expensive stuff, like, $20,000, $50,000, $200,000 orders were the norm. And we started this business founded on the principles of, let's make a lot of money.
Okay. I see where this is going.
Yeah. That was our founding and guiding principle.
And did you meet that goal?
We hit 7 figures within the first year. We were profitable from the first month. We all knew what we were doing. We were all very good at what we did. So yes, we did pretty well in that regard. Like, if that was the goal, we hit that goal. What I discovered, though, is that you can be financially successful running a business and be utterly miserable at the same time. And I had never even considered that this was a possibility until it happened to me. So what basically happened is we had a very, very good salesman, meaning he was very good at making sales. And oftentimes what he did to make those sales is make all kinds of promises to the customers, which it was my responsibility to fulfill because I was kind of doing the real like hands-on technical work and all of the customer support. So again, I mean, not to brag, but I'm really good at what I did in this business. And so we were able to mostly keep people happy. But there were occasions where, if somebody's not happy with their purchase and they want a refund, when their purchase was $40,000, we can't really give refunds. We were a very small business. I mean, yikes. Cash flow wise, that money was instantly put to use on more inventory, payroll, all of that stuff. Refunds were not an option. So we would have to bend over backwards to make things right, which was very, very costly in terms of extra expenses, both, money and time and personnel. It was an extremely stressful couple of years while we were doing this. So even though on paper things looked pretty good, there was not a lot of personal satisfaction going on. And so at the same time, I had been doing e-commerce just as a side hustle, like a hobby. And as I learned, diving into podcasts and other people's content, I learned about how business could be run and how business should be run. And unfortunately, wasn't really able to apply those lessons to the one that I was already running with my partners because they were not on the same path. Yeah. So what happened was a divergence. I ended up walking away from that business with basically nothing and going all in to e-commerce and digital marketing, email marketing, and helping other people to do the same with the lessons that I had learned from that other business. So that's where I started. And where I am now is just a very different understanding of what the purpose of business is and how we can make it fun and easy to run a business that's not only financially successful and rewarding, but also taps into ideas of purpose and fulfillment and communication and camaraderie and all that good stuff that you talked about. So we can talk more about that and just open my brain up to you. But I think it's important to know like how I started this journey. And again, through the course of several years of success and failure at the same time, learning the lessons that I now try to carry forward.
Yeah. So we got to unpack that a bit because there were some really key just statements that were just bold statements that I need to highlight. And the first one is you mentioned you can be very successful, but not be happy, not be fulfilled. If you measure success by money, of course, because you can make money doing anything, really, digging a ditch. It doesn't really, you can make money to sustain yourself or grow your life in many, 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 many different ways. But that does not mean they fulfill you. Not that digging ditches doesn't fulfill me. And my husband's outside right now shoveling bark and putting it all over the yard. He loves that. That is his element. He is absolutely in bliss state when he's in his yard. So yeah, there are many ways to do things. So why? So you mentioned that and you gave us hints, and I have a feeling your answer might be similar to what mine would be. Why was that goal of making money not fulfilling? Get a little deeper into that. What changed for you that didn't change for your partners?
Absolutely. So we all started this business because we saw the opportunity. And I'm not going to go into the whole backstory, but the timing was good. But we knew there was opportunity here, and we were all getting out of something else that we didn't like. And so for many people, this idea where if we have this financial success, it unlocks all these doors. It represents freedom. It represents escape, right?
Yeah.
But what I learned is that if the pursuit of money is done from a from a place of trying to run away from something else or to escape something else, then what that means is that you're just going to fall into whatever path you think is going to lead you to this financial result. And it's just a fact. There are other considerations into this. Some people can make a bunch of money in a particular job that requires 80% travel, right? And if they have a family, then the cost of, the loss of their time with their loved ones may not actually be worth the money that they get, but sometimes they don't find that out until they're in it. And then trying to, again, unravel that, escape from it. And I think what a lot of us do is we just, our entire career, our professional lives are categorized by us trying to escape some situation and then jumping into something else without really understanding what it is that we're moving towards. And, the other thing I touch upon is if money equaled happiness, then lottery winners should be very, very happy people. But if you actually look at what the research is, most of these people end up worse off, than before they got their money. So, the huge, influx of money actually ruins their lives, destroys their relationships, and they typically end up bankrupt anyways. But now they've destroyed all the relationships in their lives as well. So, money's great. I enjoy it a lot for what it can do, but the pursuit of money in and of itself just doesn't satisfy.
And I agree 100%. And I would go a little bit further because I think there's something a lot deeper in you that you shifted. So you used a couple of analogies. You used the analogy of lottery winners. You used the analogy of people who get into a job and don't realize that they don't like it until they're in it. And then they want to leave it and go away from something they don't like. Unfortunately, just like all those scenarios, and including things like divorce and or leaving one relationship and thinking another relationship will be better. Unfortunately, we take ourselves with us in those situations, right? Unfortunately, if we don't learn from those lessons, we just take them to the next scenario. If we think we're just running away from this outside thing that's making us unhappy, we take ourselves with us, which is ultimately where the unhappiness is, which is where the difficulties are to be attracted to that particular situation in the first place. So there must have been something that you shifted in yourself, and you've definitely touched on it. You've given us a great example of it in the sense that you knew that was not happy. You knew you had to satisfy those customers, even though someone else was making promises that you knew you couldn't fulfill completely without really extra expense. So it was a choice. Which expense would you prefer? Give the money back or have to go in and dive in and do something more? So in that next business with the e-commerce, and I know you're working on great stuff with your wife, and the coaching, what was that shift? What did you change so that you didn't take that with you to the next gig?
Excellent question. You're absolutely right to call that out. I think I'm trying to remember when exactly this happened. It was during that business with partners. I had just kind of begun the whole e-commerce realm. So maybe like 2015, 2016. But I realized that I was already miserable in the new business that I'd started with my friends, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Because in my professional life up to this point, when I had been an employee, I could always blame my misery on the situation, on my boss, on my coworkers, on my particular role, and then jump to something new to fix it. Somebody called out, and I don't remember who. It was either a mentor or it might have even been my wife. I'm not sure. I should remember this. This is important. But somebody asked me, they said, what's the common thread in all of these situations where you end up not feeling fulfilled and not being happy? What's the common thread so that you can avoid that? And I looked at it, and can I say bad words on this show?
Go for it.
I realized, oh shit, I am the common thread.
Yes.
And at that point, it was just this like flash of realization. Like I didn't understand how to fix it, but what I realized was like what you just said. I was carrying myself from situation to situation, and the thing that was wrong was something about how I was dealing with each of these. And so it didn't matter what I was going to do next because I was going to ruin that too until I figured out what it was that I was carrying from thing to thing that was making it miserable. And it took me a while to answer that question and figure it out. But I think what it came down to for me is that I fundamentally misunderstood the purpose of business. I thought the purpose of business was to make money. And if you ask economists, CEOs out in the marketplace, like that's the answer they'll give you. The purpose of business is to make money. And if we want to get all academic, like a lot of this is Milton Friedman's fault. That's what he said. But what I started to notice is that there were people in the marketplace who were saying something different. They were saying that actually, no, there's more to it than that. And one of the things that I just kind of fixated on when I realized how important it was is that business is really about service. Like you're doing the world a service if you do this right. You're doing your customers a service. You're doing your employees a service, other stakeholders in the business, right? Your vendors. And just the idea that running a business is actually like a giant network of collaboration where it's a group of people working together so that we may all achieve more than we could do alone. And part of that achievement is financial, but it's more to it than that. So I started listening to thought leaders who were talking about impact, right? Tom Bilyeu, right? He started a podcast about it. And I at first I didn't understand what they were talking about. I'm like, well, if you sold the company for $100 million, who cares about impact? But what I realized is that what they were speaking to was this idea that there was a higher purpose in their life and in everything that they were doing than just the financial reward. And the people who I saw kind of having this shift were going from miserable to happy, or unfulfilled to fulfilled. And so I wanted to understand that. I wanted to learn more about it. And so I really started rethinking what would all of this look like if I was trying to give my customers, the result that they wanted, not caring about what I was going to get out of it, right? Which seems extremely counterintuitive.
I know.
Running a for-profit business. But, and of course, I think it's an ideal, right? We don't get there all the time on every single interaction, but if we enter into things with that as the mindset, it completely changes. Like just how you deal with customer service, right? Or how you deal with when a vendor is late on a shipment or there's a price increase. Like the way that we show up with, in our relationships with stakeholders and customers, it's totally different when we're coming in from a place of service. And for the people who are not aligned with this way of thinking right now, it sounds nuts, right? It sounds like wishy-washy woo-woo. That guy's not going to be in business very long. But what I can tell you is that in trying to operate from that place for the last couple of years, in everything I do, I'm having so much more fun doing all of this. I love what I do every single day. I love it. And the businesses are actually doing better too. Like there is more money when you show up and this is the goal instead of just the straight up financials.
That is it, really. And so what we first talked about was you have to, when we're not happy, we have to look inward. We have to look at ourselves and say, okay, what am I bringing to this and how can I fix it instead of expecting everyone outside of us to fix it? And then we look at business and we go, okay, if we look at only the purpose of success is the entity itself, the business, then that's where the unhappiness comes in because there's no, and I don't want, you can use all the words exactly like you said. You could be woo-woo and say higher purpose and all this other, I'm doing something beyond myself and legacy and all these words that we know we've heard and seen. But if we look at this, once we build a business and we've looked at ourselves to change our mindset, change what we bring to the world, then we can look outside and go, who is this business serving? And it's almost like there's a tether, and it's tethered to your customer and to your business and all your employees. And as you grow in your business and your employees and your mindset and all those things, that tether increases and helps your customer grow. When you focus on that customer and the satisfaction and the transformation, and again, all the words, all the buzzwords that we've all heard, but it's true. When you focus on the transformation of your customer, the value that you bring to your customer, that tether, and your customer grows, that tether grows you at the same time. It really is, it is fundamentally true. And this whole way of doing business of corporate first, and the business is the whole mission statement is all about the business, not about their customers. And not just the mission statement, but from top down, the way this company is run, if it actually shifts to customer centric, everything, except of course, you have to stay alive. So when times are difficult, look to what you can do for your customer, but also keep the company alive. So, that tether has to stay tight for both sides. It is fundamentally true. And I think it's a huge shift from people coming out of a corporate environment or a corporate structure and going into this entrepreneurship. And this, especially as we head into Web3, I'm telling you, if you don't do this, people, the things that are happening in Web3, I know you think it's probably not, it's a fad and it's not going to last and all that stuff. I get it. But hear me, it is community and customer focused completely. And if you don't shift your thinking to that, you will not survive Web3 and what's coming. It just will not make sense. Oh my gosh, Greg, that was beautiful. That was I agree 100% with everything you said. And now taking that high ticket and possibly making it to a little bit lower ticket, probably in different e-commerce situations, you know how to do high ticket. So that's not as difficult to make that shift if you need to in the future. Right. Wow. Thank you. That was amazing. I very much appreciate it. And you set us up for our next conversation, should you listeners choose to tune in, when we're going to talk about impact and innovation. So I think you hit mindset right on the head. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, hold on. If your mindset was shifted, you were inspired to innovate, and you were spurred into action, don't just move on with your day. Focus, my friend, and take a few minutes to visit CEOmischiefmaker.com to learn more about the value that was shared with you today. Please act now and create some CEO mischief of your own.